What's happening, guys? Shay here. Uneven bounce. Hope you guys are well. So we're here to discuss England's latest loss, series loss against India. Unfortunately, another day, another loss to Team India. We got the 5 T20 match series to discuss. It was a great series. India ran out, eventually won the series 3-2, came back from 2-1 down to claim the last 2 matches. Excellent series overall. Some great cricket on both sides. Here to discuss it with me today, I've got repeat panelists. I've got obviously Anurag Reddy, Aditya Mehta, Sai Banerjee, Krishna Kalki, and not new to the channel, but first time on these India tour shows, we've got Aaron Viles, aka Cricket Connoisseur. Aaron, how you doing, first of all?
Well, obviously very, very well, Shay. I mean, Arsenal, we came back 3-3 today against West Ham.
I saw that against West Ham, yeah.
Yeah, not bad, not bad. And of course, yeah, looking forward to tonight, discussing both England and India, 2 teams which I have great admiration for.
Excellent, yeah. I did try to get, by the way, guys, Joe Nuttall on the pod
that
today.
That would have been blockbuster.
So yeah, tried to get Joe, but you know what? I got the next best thing in Aaron. So here we go. So his co-host on the County Cricket podcast. I was going to give you a bit of a jib and say I got Joe's number 2. But yeah, I got Aaron on. So yeah, thank you, Aaron, for joining us. Obviously, a wealth of knowledge. I'm very much looking forward to hearing your take on the series. Disappointing one, unfortunately, again for us. But, we got close to this like test series anyway, so it was competitive. I did predict 3-2 to England. I got it wrong by about 30-odd runs, let's say. But yeah, hey, that's the way it goes. It wasn't a smashing, though, was it, as some of these guys on here predicted? I think we got a 5-0 from you, Krishna. Was it might have been you, Sion?
I don't predict, dude.
Oh yeah, you don't predict. That's right. Yeah, I think you just mouthed it to me, maybe off camera. Was it the 5-0? So there we go. Yeah, but yeah, very competitive series. It was a good one anyway. So what we're going to do today, guys, I want to go through the respective batting and bowling on each side, just raise some points I've got, and then we'll go around to the panelists and discuss them. So I want to start with India's batting. Obviously, I think I said who was the losers of the test series after our 4th test review show. And I think it was you, Anurag, who said in terms of India, it was Kohli. So, and I said, I think that Virat Kohli will come back with a bang. Obviously, he's back to a format that he loves. He's incredible at. And it showed that, leading run scorer for India and the series. Finished at a majestic 80 in that final match. We've also now seen him some comments about him being made the official opener of India and RCB, go into the IPL slot next month. Aaron's obviously very happy about that, being a staunch RCB fan. Obviously, Kohli's returned now. I mean, I know we got a lot of critics, wasn't there, about Kohli maybe dropping the white ball captaincy or even the test captaincy after, obviously, Rahane's performances as captain in those 3 tests in Australia. Do you think this is really kind of, obviously, Virat Kohli was playing well for the team, but do you think it was a kind of, dare I say, an FU to some of the critics that maybe being put under pressure from India and outside? I'll start with you, Anurag, obviously as someone who was quite heavily critical of Kohli in that test series. Has he, obviously, is there still any kind of question marks you feel as Kohli is captain?
Well, for Kohli, it was definitely a redemption time in the T20 series. I mean, the way he performed in the Australian, lone test and this test series which followed, I think he wasn't giving his 100% if you look at it. But again, in white ball cricket, he's always a legend. But so we expected him to perform, but in the end, he entirely changed the series. I mean, he became the man of the series, scored the highest number of runs, and he showed to everyone that he's capable of leading the side and as well as play as the new opener, which the team is expecting him of. And probably he'll do the same in the IPL as well. And if he's doing good, probably that's good signs for India to win the T20 World Cup as well.
Thank you. Simon, we'll go to you. Obviously, Virat Kohli, I said before, has been under some pressure going into this series. What were your kind of opinion on his performances across these 5 matches?
Well, the first 2 matches were not very convincing of his form. But the 3rd match, he just comes and, Kohli's in peak form when he hits that whip shot through the leg side, right? I think he hit it off Mark Wood, basically. So I knew that Kohli's back. Then he again got one, I think, a single-digit score against Adil Rashid. I think still that's a bit of a concern that he's not being able to read the spin quite well. But I wouldn't worry too much about that because I think he's back and he scored a lot.
Aditya, I'll head to you. Obviously, I mentioned before, see lead run score in the series. That being said, what was your opinions on his captaincy of India in the series?
Generally been wary of Virat Kohli, the captain, and I tend to be a little bit hesitant to always appoint your best player as captain. I don't think that formula works. I think captaincy is a bit more complicated. There are some, there's man management. There's providing an environment in which cricketers can grow and they feel comfortable confiding in the captain and so on. And I think those are qualities that I'm not saying those are qualities that Kohli doesn't have, but I do think that the qualities that MS Dhoni had a lot more, and Rohit Sharma has a lot more as well, as does Ajinkya Rahane. Virat Kohli is fantastic, and I'm not saying he's a bad captain, but I don't think he's the ideal captain. If you watch footage of the India versus Australia series, you can see that when Ajinkya Rahane was captain, Rohit Sharma was a lot more comfortable talking to bowlers. Putting his arm around Navdeep Saini and just really telling him what to do, putting his arm around Natarajan and telling him that he needs to bowl a bit closer to the stumps. But you don't really see that when Kohli is captain, because I think Kohli is a bit more of a one-man show. And that's not to say that he doesn't encourage collaboration in that sense, but I don't know how comfortable people are in doing that around him. And saying that, I think Kohli is still going to lead the team in the T20 World Cup, but is he a 10-on-10 captain? Probably not. Not in my view.
What were
let's not forget that.
Let's
not forget that the third game of the series, Rohit Sharma was captain in that second innings. After Kohli went off the field, and credit to Rohit Sharma. I think those wickets that Shardul Thakur got were credit to Rohit Sharma's captaincy and some of the plans that he came up with. I think a lot of credit deserves to go to Rohit Sharma as well. And it's quite evident now that Kohli leans on him quite heavily, as we saw in the last game as well.
England won the toss 4 out of 5 times. Last 2 games as well. They went obviously to the try and trust method of chasing. Obviously now Kohli shepherded. Obviously, say 1.5 games. We're coming off in the 4th match, but obviously Kohli shepherded the bowling quite well, in my opinion. Krishna, I'll come to you. What was your opinion of that? Because I think a lot of it was said about the fact that you chase and you win predominantly with some of the first 3 matches, but India, obviously in that last game in particular, in the decider, they obviously defend that score. I mean, there's obviously a mammoth score, was it 225? They piled on. What was your opinion of the way he kind of shepherded and rotated his bowlers throughout the series, especially his use of his spin bowlers, because they had quite a hard time. We'll discuss that a bit later, but every bowler went for 9 or above pretty much per over. They all struggled.
See, I think to chalk it down to Virat Kohli's captaincy for the reason why the bowlers did badly, I feel is a little bit of a reach. I think you can't blame the entirety of India's a lot of lackluster bowling display in the series to Virat Kohli's rotation of the bowlers. I think that's a little unfair, but I do think that I don't think the series was particularly particularly terrible or particularly amazing in terms of Virat Kohli's rotation of his bowler. I thought he was okay. I think at some points he had different tactics that he wanted to try, which were questionable. But I mean, tactics are always one of those things where it's like, you look at it and if it comes off, you're like, oh my God, what a great tactic. But then if it doesn't come off, you're like, why did he do that? Right. So it's always one of those things where you can never, you can't necessarily blame somebody for getting it wrong, but at the same time, you can't sort of assign, greatness to somebody who gets it right, I guess. But I think Virat Kohli wasn't particularly bad, I feel, in terms of rotation of his bowlers. I just think that maybe, I think one change that really sort of, I think not necessarily threw me off, but sort of had me a little interested in India's selection policy was the Chahal for Chahar, Rahul Chahar selection. I think that selection, I felt it was more of something to do with just providing something different for India's spin bowling attack, because Yuzvendra Chahal was sort of, he had been used for the first 3 games. He didn't play that well. He had a sort of okay series in Australia, barring that first game. So I think they just want something different in that spin bowling attack. And I think Sundar also was not at his best. But then again, Sundar only shines in the power play, where he wasn't used. So yeah, I guess you can't always stick to the same plan, but at the same time, you have to try. India was trying different things, and this is the only time to try new things. So I don't blame anybody for anything in the series.
Speaking of obviously trying new things, I mean, Aaron, you've obviously got quite a balanced view on both sides. Would you say that this series was kind of approached by both Morgan and Kohli and respective managements as a kind of a tester series, going obviously with the World Cup being 7 months away, obviously going to be in India? Do you feel like maybe they were both trying new combinations, or do you feel it was more about getting the win more first and foremost?
Well, I think it was a bit different for both sides. I think with India and Kohli, to be honest, they were trying and testing all of these different methodologies, all these different approaches. I mean, Kohli opening, for example, in that last game was an absolute masterstroke in the end. And of course, all the chopping and change of the bowlers. So for me, I felt like India were trying to find that ideal balanced 11, or at least trying to see who could supplement the likes of Bumrah, Jadeja, Pandya if those guys got injured. For England, on the other hand, I don't feel like we actually did that. I'm going to be honest. I feel like, again, similar to the Test series, we missed a bit of an opportunity. So, for example, we seemed a bit one-dimensional with the batting. We didn't really seem to change a lot up. We didn't put Ben Stokes really up the order, for example. That's something which has been talked about a lot heading into this series. And, of course, now that the series has finished, about his role potentially coming in at number 3 or 4, for example. So, for me, I don't feel like it was for England. I felt like we've got our 11, or at least our supposed 11 right now. The only thing that I would say, though, there's still weaknesses. So even though we are the number 1 team in the world, I wish we would have just tried a bit more combinations, for example. I feel like Sam Curran was almost a real passenger in this series. He didn't really bowl in the power play. When he did, he got KL Rahul out, so fair play to Sam Curran. He batted all right at the death when he came in at number 9 in the last game. But other than that, he bowled less overs than Ben Stokes. So why didn't we bring in a Moeen Ali, for example? Why didn't we try Liam Livingstone or Sam Billings? So for me, I felt like India definitely more of not a transition per se, but a finding out process. But for England, we went for the victory. It didn't pay off. And I feel like that could actually hinder us heading into the World Cup later on in November this year.
Thank you, Aaron. I mean, just regarding obviously your first point about Kohli being a master stroke as open the batting, that actually brings to my next point. DT, I'll start with you. I think what we saw, obviously, Shikhar Dhawan played 1 game only and then was dropped. I think it's fair to say, rather than the rest, he didn't play again. We didn't see him again the rest of the series. We saw Ishan Kishan come into the team, Surya Kumar Yadav come to the side as well. All top order options perform very well for some time now for Mumbai Indians, especially in Surya Kumar Yadav's case. We've also saw KL Rahul is still there. Obviously, had a poor series. Kohli elevated himself top of the order, which obviously worked wonders in that final match. India have a real plethora of top order white ball options. Rohit Sharma's obviously didn't even play the whole series, so he came in and did well. It's an embarrassment of riches, really, isn't it? If you think about it. To be fair, it's similar to England. I think England also have a lot of good top order options as well, to be fair. And these two are very competitive sides we saw and closely matched. Do you feel like with Shikhar Dhawan, he's 34 this year, so turned 34 already. Do you feel like maybe he is now on the outside looking in? Look at the likes of Kumar. I know, see, Surya Kumar Yadav is only, I think, 3 or 4 years younger, but Kishan's what, 22? You could even elevate Pant at the order, Shiraz Iyer. It really is so strong. Could you may have seen the end of Shikhar Dhawan after this series at ETL? Do you still feel he's got an opportunity to come back into the side and make a case for a World Cup spot?
This series to me is emblematic of the idea that we got our outcomes right, but we got the process horribly wrong. Because if you look at the selection for this series, the IPL is your primary platform that you use to select for your T20 team. Shikhar Dhawan has scored 500 plus runs in the last IPL. And for him to suddenly be relegated from first choice opener to your third choice opener, third opener, I think he should feel pretty hard done by, because he hasn't done much wrong. And I think we've got enough evidence in cricket that you keep yo-yoing cricketers in and out of your team, they're not going to do particularly well. And I think that's quite disappointing. I'd say the same for KL Rahul. He scored 500 plus runs for the last 3 editions, so he should be an automatic choice as well. That he's done poorly in this series is probably a product of the fact that he's been through a couple of bio bubbles, and he hasn't had much game time really since Australia. But in saying that, again, you look at Ishan Kishan, done brilliantly well, and that 50 odd he scored in his debut was outstanding. But then to have him play just 2 out of the 4 games, I don't know what sense that makes. And I'd say the same for Surya Kumar Yadav. So we do have a plethora of riches, but I personally don't feel very confident in the selection acumen of this team management, because they need to have a more clear-cut process. Because if you play Ishan Kishan, KL Rahul, and Rishabh Pant in the same team, you've essentially got 3 wicket-keeper batsmen, and your fielding suffers, because then Yuzvendra Chahal, who is a decent fielder but not a very good catcher, he compromises fielding as well. So you've got to hide him too. And then you've got Bumrah and Shami who are going to come into the team, and we can't say that they're great fielders either. So your fielding on a small grounds in India at the World Cup is going to be seriously tested. So my question to the team is that we've got a great team, we've got incredible talent. We can literally have like another set of 11 who would do really great at the World Cup too. But I don't know what process the team is following to select players. And those are questions that I think we need to ask.
Thank you, Aditya. Si, I'll go over to you. Let's say, obviously, the World Cup, the first game of the World Cup is happening tomorrow. Who is your opening batting combination going into that tournament?
I would like to go with KL Rahul and Rohit at the top still, because India do have a problem that if there's a collapse and if Rohit and Virat are opening, there's no one to stop that collapse. Seeing that Surya Kumar and Ishan Kishan have just got 2 matches in their bag. So if that happens, then that's a grave danger, right? And if you have got Virat down there, stop the collapse. I would still have KL Rahul or Ishan Kishan open the batting with Rohit Sharma.
But haven't you got Shreyas Iyer that can play the anchor role at 4 or 5?
That's another problem. You can't have Shreyas Iyer playing at 6 or 7 because that's not his role, right? And if Jadeja
where
comes back,
where should he bat, Si?
Ideally he should bat at 4. But if KL Rahul and Rohit Sharma opens, Virat comes at 3. 4 then goes to Surya Kumar Yadav. Where do you bat Shreyas Iyer then? So I think Shreyas Iyer will become one of those Ambati Raidu type cases.
I hope not.
Perfect choices. Yeah, even I do not hope that.
Very, very sad. Very sad. All right, do you concur with Si in there, particularly about the Shreyas Iyer comments? But I mean, it seems to be this. Obviously, there's interesting comments here from Aditya and Si about the top order selection. Do you not support the selection of Kohli at the top of the order with Rohit Sharma?
Yes, sir. If you remember the last podcast, I had said that the selectors have sent a clear message, like there is no room for conservative cricket anymore. You can't have too many anchors in your middle order expecting to post 200 plus scores every time. So if you see the current side, you'll have Rohit Sharma and Kohli opening. That paves way for youngsters who play fearless cricket to come in and just bash from ball 1. If you remember, Surya Kumar Yadav came in 1 down, started straight away hitting Adil Rashid to the covers, 1 to the long off. So that is what I need. I don't need a Shreyas Iyer again anchoring my innings, ensuring there are wickets until 15 overs and then go slam bang T20 cricket. So I think if you ask me to select an 11, unfortunately Shreyas Iyer has to make way. He'll have to play as the reserve player, and I'll have all youngsters who are playing at more than striker at 150, paving inside the middle order.
Krishna, I mean, Rishabh Pant only had a middling series, to be fair. I know he came off an incredible test series. He wasn't that impressive in this series. K. Rahul was there. He's obviously done it for a longer period of time. Established himself as a fantastic T20 player. How does this stop, obviously he was dropped to the final match. Do you feel like Pant is maybe taking over as the number 1 keeper batsman in the T20 side for India? Or would you stick with Rahul? If you had to drop someone, would you drop maybe Pant, or would you stick with Pant and keep Rahul out the side?
I mean, it's such a hard question to answer. I just believe. See, here's the thing, right? Pant he's a very special cricketer. There's no doubt about that, and he's somebody who you expect him to, at least if you're playing him at 5-6, you're expecting him to give you 30, 40, off 20 balls sort of kind of innings. You're kind of expecting, a sort of a kind of a prolonged finisher's role from him. And so you are from Pandya as well. Like Pant and Pandya, you expect sort of similar things from them. See, the debate between KL Rahul and Pant as keepers, I think, is a very it's not something you can solve so easily because they both offer very different things. See, KL Rahul as a batsman keeper he's not the greatest keeper in the world. He's not amazing, but I mean, at least the reason he was there as a keeper in the squad is because they were not confident in Pant. And now after the 2 test series, they've gotten some confidence in Pant, which is why they're trying to make him the mainstay keeper batsman again, which I think they should continue trying to do because, he's earned his way back into the side. And, the big reason why Pant was not chosen as the first choice keeper is because you didn't outline his role clearly. One of the big reasons. He was in and out of the side. He was playing at 3 one day, he was playing at 4, he was playing at 6, he was playing at 7, he was playing all over the place. Some days he's keeping, some days he's not. He's so confused about what his role in the team is. The team is confused about what Pant is doing. And I guess it was sort of like I mentioned I think in one of the previous podcasts, it's like a vicious loop where, Pant is unsure about what he's doing because the team is unsure about what he's doing. And the team is unsure about what Pant is doing because Pant himself is unsure. So it's like, it's this vicious loop. And I fear that I hope that does not happen again. Now, when it comes to Pant's performance in this series, yes, it was not the best performance, but I feel like he did his role pretty well. Like his role was to score 20, 30 runs. You cannot expect 50, 60 from a guy who bats at 5-6. You just cannot. I mean, that's just not how T20 works. You don't get that many balls to play. For him to come and get you 20, 30 runs, at a reasonably good strike rate, 130, 140, I think is, like you said, a middling performance. It's a good performance. Yes, we can expect a lot more from him, and we should, rightly so. I actually just want to add one point to this whole selection debacle. I think Aditya mentioned a very nice point about how there's a process was sort of wrong, but the outcome was favorable. I think the thing is, what India really needs to outline in terms of selection for the T20 World Cup is they need to figure out which 15 players belong in a World Cup winning squad, right? If the current batch of players that are there in the 2025, whoever is up for selection, right? If whoever is not in that 15 is automatically axed. If it's not Shreyas Iyer, then it's not Shreyas Iyer. If he does not belong to the World Cup squad that you think is going to win, because that's the most important thing. You have to pick players who are going to win you the World Cup, win you games, win you matches against tough teams in tough situations. You need players to do that. So I think this series also was a way to test out how players would react to situations. And I don't necessarily feel it was a bad thing to test out Kishan, Surya. But of course, Dhawan misses out, Rahul misses out. So I think all these questions will be cleared up once the IPL gets over and we're actually coming down to, nailing down who the 15 people are.
Thank you, Krishna. Thank you. Aaron, over to you. Obviously, India, despite being winners, obviously there's a lot of questions they're batting. I feel like even though English are established units, as you quite rightly pointed out before, still some questions arise, I feel, over some of the batsmen. I think the role of Ben Stokes against a bit later. David Milan, who I know you're obviously a fan and a supporter of, was quite heavily criticised. David Milan is a quite interesting case, isn't it? Because number one ranked T20 batsman in the world, there's something about David Milan that people don't want to. And he seems to obviously couple a lot of flack. He seems to be a couple of games away from more criticism. I won't say necessarily being dropped, but I think for another country, he'd be lauded over. My personal opinion is that a really strong IPL would raise his profile and then I think allow the masses to really warm to him and say, you know what, this guy is a mainstay of the side. A little bit like Ben Stokes. Ben Stokes' T20 record, as we know, isn't that impressive. I'm not sure it's necessarily down to him. It could be the case like with Rishabh Pant. What's his role? And we can discuss that in a bit. But I feel like with Ben Stokes, no one really says we should drop Ben Stokes. Ben Stokes it's just like you pick Ben Stokes, don't you? It's a England cricket team, you pick Ben Stokes. Doesn't matter if it's 2050 or a test match. David Milan unfortunately doesn't have that kind of backing, irrespective of what he does with his bat. Here, I think he proved a lot of people wrong, including Wiz in cricket, who've been very critical of him, especially his batting in the power play. He really showed he can actually. he's not a guy who bludgeons the ball. He's not Andre Russell. He's not a Big Show. He's not a Glenn Maxwell. He's not a Karen Pollard. We know that. He's a guy who plays much more finesse, but he can score boundaries. He can find the rope consistently, as he's shown in that final match. Do you feel like maybe, though, Aaron, and I'd like to just kind of elaborate on this old Milan issue. Do you feel like maybe the selection of Johnny Bairstow at 4 was supposed to be skewed, and maybe he should bat at 3, and Milan should have come in at 4 because maybe more suits to the anchor role? I'll throw it over to you, Aaron. You let me know your thoughts.
It's an interesting one because I've literally been in the process of doing an analysis of both, which is coming out later this week, funnily enough. But I looked at the boundary percentages of both, and for all of the flack that Dawid Malan gets, his boundary percentage is about 63. Johnny Bairstow's is 67. So there's not actually a lot in it. And if you look at the dot ball percentage as well, Malan's is a lot lower. He rotates the strike. He's someone who, as you said, a bit more of a class touch finesse player per se. And yes, I have to admit, okay, I like Dawid Malan, big fan of his game. I don't mind saying that out there. But he did have a poor series. He scored 80 runs from 77 balls in those first 4 T20Is and then brought it back in that final game. I know a lot of people very critical of his strike rate in that partnership with Jos Buttler, but at least he gave England a sniff. So that's the key thing. One other thing with Milan before we go into the Bairstow versus Milan debate is the issue against spin. If you look at his record since January the 1st, 2019, he's played in 19 innings. 13 of those dismissals have been against spin. You're going to India, you're going to be playing against some absolutely world-class attacks. Not just from India, but from Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Hasaranga, for example, and those Rongans. He is going to be tested in that World Cup. So that, for me, is absolutely pivotal. Do England see him as the right guy to lead that top 3, play the anchor role, and set up an innings? And that's up to Silva to decide, I suppose. But with regards to the whole Bairstow versus Milan thing, I like Milan at 3. Okay, the guy has done absolutely nothing wrong in an England shirt. I don't understand the agenda against him at all. His strike rate is 144. I know in this series it's 120, but his strike rate, career-wise, is higher than Johnny Bairstow's. And yet nobody talks about Bairstow's strike rate. Bairstow's has been hit. Bairstow comes in and reinvigorates the innings. But no one says that about Dawid Malan. And this guy, with that knock yesterday, became the fastest person in T20 international history. Okay, faster than Azam, faster than Kohli, faster than McCullum, faster than every single other batsman that has preceded him to get 1,000 T20I runs. This is a man who in the series before scored 99 out at Newlands. He's a man who did absolutely nothing wrong in the summer against Australia and Pakistan. The series before that in New Zealand, where he absolutely hammered the Black Caps in multiple games. I don't understand why there's even this conversation. Because he has a higher strike rate than Babar Azam. He has one of the greatest averages in the entire world right now. It is such an England thing to criticise the number 1 ranked batsman in the entire planet. Any other team on this planet would be dying for Dawid Malan. I know he's not the most aesthetically pleasing, and something which doesn't help is because of the people he's surrounded by. You mentioned Jason Roy, the powerful, bludgeoning power hitter at the top of the order. Jos Buttler, Mr. 360. Johnny Bairstow, the spin hitter. Ben Stokes, who is an absolute revered icon in English cricket right now. That doesn't help him. But at the end of the day, he is our plough horse. He is someone we can depend on, someone who we can rely on. And if it's a question of swapping him and Bairstow, I wouldn't swap him. It works at 3. If it isn't broke, don't fix it. Dawid Malan, number 3 for me for the foreseeable future.
Chris Selwood, if you're listening, I hope you heard that, because that is a very passionate defence of Dawid Malan. I think actually Aaron needs an aircon unit behind him because he's going to rend the face at the moment. He's so passionate about this.
I am, but this is the thing. It reminds me of Sibley. That's why. It's Sibley in the Test team. It's the exact same thing. We pick a player. It happened with Moeen Ali in the past. We pick a player who we seem to think is the issue, but they aren't the issue. And then it gets to a point where we're applying unnecessary pressure. He's doing nothing wrong. Okay, yes, his strike rate maybe isn't the best, but it's still in the 140s. I mean, that's not bad for T20 cricket. If it was 118, 120, fair enough, questions could be asked. But he's striking at 144. So personally, for me, I just don't understand it, but I'm speaking clearly statistically. I'm speaking from anecdotal evidence from previous series. And to be honest, if anyone wants to disagree with me, please feel free to do so. I'm perfectly fine with that. That's the whole point of cricket. It's to voice these opinions and show these different viewpoints.
Yeah, I think it's really well put there, Aaron. Thank you. I will help the rest of the panelists. I mean, I think you made some excellent points there regarding, especially the last part there. Statistics is the main, obviously, evidence to show obviously why he should be in the side and one of the first things on the team sheet. But I think actually you you did allude to the fact of why there's so many critics of him still. He doesn't have that profile. And unfortunately, in cricket, we want this big back. You made Jason Roy. I mean, the fact that some people I've seen on social media argue for Jason Roy's inclusion in the side, not to say over David Milan, been so passionate about Jason Roy, more than people have been passionate about David Milan being included in the side, because he offers that firework pyrotechnic cricket, which we all love, don't we? You know, we all like that. Listen, don't get me wrong, everyone here is a cricket hardcore. We love Test cricket as well. We love 50 over, but we do like the ball being bludgeoned over, you know, back over the ball's head for six. We all like that. And Jason Roy obviously offers something, you know, this kind of that type of cricket. That being said, David Milan, as I said before, is obviously the way he plays his game is not that pleasing to the eye, irrespective of having such strong stats. I mean, as I mentioned before Aaron took over, I think a really strong IPL would really help him, you know, with this. I think that's where people make their names, whether you're an Indian player or an international player, you know, overseas player. So I'll come to you actually, obviously, just from an outside perspective. I just want some quick fire opinions, actually more for review. If you can tell me your opinion on David Milan before we move on.
I think it's his first time playing in the subcontinent, so there's no point in judging him so much. And I think a good IPL will, of course, help his cause, but I don't see him getting into the Punjab side a lot because of the X factor of Gale, of course. But even though what I saw of him yesterday, he's quite a good player. T20 ranked batsman, he took 23 innings, right? So there must be something in it. It's not like he can't just manufacture runs out of nowhere. Deserve a chance.
That's the thing, is it? Like, not your fault at all, Sign, but it does my head in when I hear stuff like that. Like Chris Gale should be picked, and I think I agree with you. I think Chris Gale probably will get the nod because of his reputation, because of what he's done for the last 15 years, you know, and plus. But especially what he's done in the IPL. He offers that razzmatazz. Because we discussed it, I think it was I think, Christian, on your channel with the IPL show, I was talking about, obviously, the IPL being a business. It's about the marketing machine. It's not just about what happens on the field. It's what sells shirts, what sells tickets, you know, what sells merch. Milan's not going to, no one's going to buy a shirt saying David Milan, the Batman. Come on. Okay, maybe Aaron, you know, he's the president of the, you know, of the David Milan fans, you know.
It's going to be 3-3 game.
It's just only one. Yeah, even, you know what I mean? It's just like, I feel like that's the thing. That's the problem with cricket. It's not about statistics, unfortunately, as Aaron points out, isn't it? You know, it's a travesty if I see Gale ahead of Milan. I'd just be, and I hate Punjab. I don't give a shit about them, to be honest with you. You know,
no one does. No one does.
Yeah. I thought about it. I mean, like that whole name change. You know, it made me laugh one time when I heard someone call was it Kings 10 Punjab and they're playing Karanaya last year because such a passenger. I was loving that because I can't stand. I always liked Jay Warden and Zion Karam, and Brett Lee was there at the beginning. Then I liked them. I remember watching actually them playing Kingsmead. I think you remember 2009, the South African IPL. I remember watching and Bapara got the winning runs of Punjab, and Peterson was the captain of RCB in that game. And I was there in the stands. It was a really great game actually. I didn't mind Punjab, but they just do my head in, to be honest with you. And it's just things like this. If I see like Gale, you know, get picked, it'll just make me dislike them even more. Anyway, I'm going off track here. Anurag, I'll go to you. What is your opinion as an outsider on David Milan?
Well, in the IPL perspective, I'm pretty sure he's not going to get much match time, but I prefer having him open along with Chris Gale, and probably KL Rahul can step one down and then he can play his natural innings. I don't see where the problem is. So when it comes to England's batting position, I think he's the best person to bat at number 3. He's going to anchor your innings. He's going to play at a good strike rate as well. He's aesthetically good. So I think he's one of the best T20 players in the recent times. I have no problem with him at all.
Thank you, Krishna.
Dude, Aaron, just add me to your David Milan fan club, man. Seriously.
There's 2 here. You got 2 here. There you go.
Dude, how can you criticize a guy who has a strike rate of 150, all right, who's averaging close to like 40 something, right? He's just what, number 1 T20 batsman. I agree. He didn't live up to his expectation in the first 4 T20. But look at the quality of shots he played in that 50-20. Man, he just ripped apart Bhuvaneshwar, Natarajan, Shardul Thakur, all these guys, Hardik Pandya. It was an absolute. I mean, if Milan had continued staying, got 100 or something, I think England were definitely in with a shot, man. Seriously, they could have chased down that 220. If Milan was there, Maybe if you had Butler alongside him, or if Stokes got going alongside Malan, dude, that 220 would have looked very small.
Okay. Okay, I want to go. Actually, we've touched on it a little bit. Jason Roy, Aaron, I'll head back to you. Just run through these points now. Jason Roy, obviously, he batted well in the first 3 games, in particular.
Mm-hmm.
I still felt though that he's still susceptible. I mean, I appreciate that obviously. With new nut, Boovy's coming in. You get a little bit of an idiot at times. Even though he made runs, though, I still felt there was a sense of weakness and there was a little bit of unsurety about his game. Obviously, he came off a very lean summer last year. He was very poor, and I felt he was actually quite lucky to retain his place in the side. To be completely honest, I would like to send Sam Billings in the middle and Butler to open up with Bairstow. But anyway, another argument. But do you feel like Jason Roy has now cement his place, dare I say, on the back of these performances? Do you think we'll see him line up in the World Cup in starting 11? Or do you still feel there's time? Dare I say those 2 words, Alex Hales, to come back into the mix? I know, yeah, it's another pot altogether. Even a Liam Livingston or a Sam Billings, he could also open the batting potentially, or a Seb Bairstow and Butler, we could mix things around. Do you feel like Jason Roy will be there or thereabouts come that opening game?
Well, I think, to be honest, the T20 blast for him this year is going to be absolutely huge. And, of course, the Sri Lanka series as well this summer. Because you look at Jason Roy, we all know what he's capable of. He is one of the most destructive hitters in world cricket when he's in rhythm. But that's the key. He's a rhythm and a confidence player. You mentioned about last season, didn't get much game time for Surrey. Came in from those bicycle bubbles, looked woefully out of form.
It's terrible.
But with that being said, he actually did finish off the summer quite well. And in T20I cricket, in ODIs, it's a completely different scenario altogether. I think he's averaging less than 15 since 2020. But in T20I cricket, he's actually doing quite well. He's averaging, I think, around 24, 25-ish, which isn't great, but it's not bad in T20I cricket.
What's his strike rate, Aaron? Sorry, just ask. What's his strike rate?
High 140s.
Okay, solid.
So again, it's around 147, 148. At least that was my analysis before yesterday's game. It may or may not have decreased since then. But yeah, with Jason Roy, here's an interesting one. And of course, you can't really change his game. Okay, in a way, he is a bit one-dimensional. He's a power hitter, as we see throughout this series, goes out there, trying to smash it from ball 1. But that is Jason Roy's game. We have to accept that. It's a bit like Rohit Sharma in Test match cricket almost. We have to accept that that's the kind of player he is, and that sometimes he's going to get out for low scores. But when he gets on fire, when he finds that rhythm, he's unstoppable. And we saw that at times in this series. And for me personally, I don't want to keep on chopping and changing the top order, because we mentioned there, how many options did you just mention there, Shay? Because in English cricket right now, I counted this the other day, there's about 13 or 14 options for the top 2. For the top 2, the middle order is a bit more shaky, but the top 2 is ridiculous. Ben Stokes is another one who's open in the IPL for Rajasthan. So for me personally, purely out of stability, there isn't ages left. I know there's about 7 months left, but in terms of our series, as I said, Sri Lanka got a limited over series against Pakistan as well, and the T20 blast. There's not loads. We can't have a complete factory reset. So for me personally, I would go Roy and Butler. If that doesn't work, if Roy is woefully out of form, maybe then choose Bairstow, for example, potentially because of the spin hitting capabilities in India. But for me, for the time being, if Jason Roy's in form, have him at the top of the order.
Fair enough. Okay, thank you. Just going on to England's options in the middle order you mentioned before. Mentioned Ben Stokes. Obviously, he's got 100 for Rajasthan last year, open in the batting. You mentioned before as well Sam Curran, and I felt like, what is really the point of Sam Curran if he's going to play 10 overs, batting at 7? Maybe he could more than likely should have got a game. I felt the fact that Ben Stokes bowled more overs than him told me a lot, but I still feel that Stokes' role in the side is not fully clear. I mean, where would you play him? Would you play him as a 5th bowler? Would you play him as a 6th bowler, Aaron? Where would you bat him? Would you bat him at 3, at 5?
You see, this is the issue. Because I have Ben Stokes' stats. Okay, I did a proper in-depth analysis, and I'll have to give credit to my friend Dan Weston, brilliant on Twitter, SA Analytics Advantage. So he did a stats analysis on Ben Stokes. This is since January 2019. So his strike rate in T20I cricket, not his strike rate, sorry, his economy rate is 10. It's 10. It's 10 runs and over. I mean, if we look stage by stage, power play is 13.1. Middle overs, it's 8.6. At the death, it's 12.2. That, to me, is not a 5th bowler. Okay, it's as simple as that. He's not consistent enough. And he showed that in this series. There's times where he does lose the radar. For me, I cannot depend on Ben Stokes. In T20 cricket, this is. Not tests, not ODIs, purely T20s. I wouldn't have him as a 5th bowling option. For me, he's a 6th bowling option. So where does that leave him? Because he's also not a finisher. We look at his strike rate, for example, at the death, it's 157, which isn't bad at all. But compare that to real elite T20I finishers. Russell, it's over 200. Pandya, it's in the high 190s. Colin de Grandhomme's in the high 180s. The fact is, I know I have to give a shout out to my boy. I have to get CDG in there somewhere. But that to me suggests he's not a finisher. So where on earth do we bat him? Because for me, he's a top 4 batsman. You mentioned there about him opening for Rajasthan. He's had 2 IPL centuries in the past 5 seasons. The other one, of course, for Rising Pune Supergiant. The key pattern there, both innings came when he batted in the power play, when he had time to get into his innings. He's not someone, for all that we think, for all the reputation that precedes him in T20I cricket, Ben Stokes is not a come in, 3 balls, hits 14, 16 runs. He's not. He needs a few deliveries to really build that momentum and get into the swing of things. I know it's very cliche. So for me, personally, ideally, he's a top 4 batsman. If we see Bairstow as a number 4, though, minimum, and I mean bare minimum, he cannot bat 6 or 7. He would have to come in at 5. But that is the decision that England have to make. Do you sacrifice Ben Stokes at his very best or close to his best, leaving him at 5 and 6? Or do you make the big decision, get rid of Johnny Bairstow and bring Sam Billings in? And that is the key thing that England have got to decide before that World Cup. And we have to make that decision pretty soon. It's as simple as that. We don't have a lot of time. I keep on mentioning this. 2 T20 series and a T20 Blast. That's it. They will fly by. I tell you right now. So for me personally, really tough decision. For the time being, I'd probably leave him at 5. But in India, once it gets to the World Cup, if we need someone to hit against the spin, if we need Ben Stokes to come in, provide some impetus, some momentum in the innings, bring him up the order. It's as simple as that, because he's not a finishing batsman. And I also neglected to mention Moeen Ali. Moeen Ali could also be a finisher with his 168 strike rate at the death.
Do you not feel there's any way really into the side for Joe Root?
It's a difficult one. For me, no, because I look at T20 teams and I really pick them apart into niches, so specific roles that players have. And in the modern game of T20, it's not like 2010 anymore, where you could have 2 anchors. You can only really afford to have 1. And England have Dawid Malan, as we've already spoken upon. So for me, I don't think it would work. They'd both clash. You can't have Malan at Root at 3 and 4, respectively. The innings would just come to a complete halt. So for me personally, Joe Root, as unfortunate as he is, got a fantastic T20I record, had a brilliant T20 Blast, averaged 60 last year for Yorkshire in that
ball as well,
competition.
didn't he? So
exactly, and he does offer that other option. That's another key point. But for me, he's going to be unlucky. I don't think Joe Root will play, but someone who I think could play could be Moeen Ali.
I think actually, just to wrap up this on Milan, I think actually one of the reasons why Milan's under so much pressure is people see him taking Joe Root's spot. That Joe Root's the person who's sitting in the sidelines, who is a world-class player, and people say, well, you can bring Joe Root into the side. I think there wasn't such a great established name with a profile as Joe Root sitting behind David Milan. I don't think he'd be under that much pressure. I think people. I mean, I've got an issue. I think Alex Hales could come into the side. For example, Jason Roy
or James Vince. James Vince is another one who's
I'm
got
not a fan of James Vince.
reputation.
I'm not a fan of James Vince at all, to be honest with you. He's been tried and tested so many times. I appreciate obviously what he's done. For example, the B-Blood did well for the Sixers. He's been a stalwart for Hampshire. He's 30 years old now. I just don't feel that mentally he's got what it takes to achieve at the highest level. I think it happens, and I see like him. I'm not saying he's mentally fragile, because he has all the look of an international player. But the reality when it comes to the international scene, he fails time and time again. If you remember 2 years ago, you know very well, Aaron, when he played those 2 games in the Sri Lanka and Australia losses, he was all at sea. When Berendorf got him out against Australia, I was going crazy, going potty at the screen. And this is how bad it was. I was desperate, begging for Jason Roy just be on one leg and get fit, just to get James Vince out the bloody side. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not with you on Vince, but I do agree. Obviously, you should see your points, but fair is fair. You know what I mean. So, but yeah, there is, like I said before, 13, 14 options, just not James Vince to me. But we can agree that obviously there's still a lot of pressure in that top order, and I do think it's a very interesting point you said about potentially dropping Johnny Bairstow. That I've never heard before. Never heard anyone say that, because I'm a big fan of Sam Billings. I think this is not meant to be sounding bad, but a poor man's Josh Butler. In the way that he can open the bat, he can come down the order. He's a finesse player. He's obviously a keeper. I mean, by that really, to forget that. I think the way he can play his cricket, I do feel like he's someone who could be a clinical finisher, and he's got IPL experience as well. So for Delhi and for Chennai. So has he got an IPL contract this season? Is he with Delhi this season? Yeah. I'd question Delhi's transfer policy when they bring in Sam Curran for what, 520,000 crore or whatever it is. Is that what he went for? Not Sam Curran, sorry, Tom Curran. Tom Curran got picked up, didn't he? Yeah, that's a question of. Anyway, I'll move on here. I'll go back to India because I want to discuss obviously India's bowling. As you guys know, well, if you don't know, I'm a big Sunrisers fan. So I've been watching Bhuvaneshwar Kumar for a long time, and the way he can move the ball both ways. Takes a new note, come down the order. I remember in 2016 with him and Fizz were fantastic for us. We won that IPL. It's hurting, I can see that, he hasn't got a sound on, which is respectful to us. Probably a good thing. But, I've watched and admired Bhuvi because he's someone, especially with the white ball, he can really make it talk. And in bowling, I always enjoy watching a guy who's hovering around 80 miles an hour because he's got incredible skill. He's shown the series. I mean, I've actually got his stats here just in front of me. I'll see. Here we go. Yes, here we are. So, 5 matches. He just took the 4 wickets. An economy to 6.38. But obviously, we saw him took the new ball. He bowled a death as well. But I think obviously in that last match, he came almost 11th to 12th over in the 5th match and got rid of Butler, which obviously then prompted a send-off from Kohli. It's a whole other thing. But I think he returned the game for India because I thought Malan and Butler were somehow going to pull off the improbable and take us home. But I was really impressed with Bhuvi. Obviously, he missed a series against Australia. He wasn't there. But I think a fit and firing Bhuvi is one of the first names on the team sheet alongside Bumrah in the T20 side. Aditi, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on Bhuvaneshwar Kumar? I mean, obviously 31 years old now. He's been around quite some time. I think he made his debut in 2012. Do you feel like he's a solid opening ball partner for Bumrah, or do you still see Mohammad Shami come back into the side?
I'd like to see Bhuvi in the team, but I don't know. It's so tricky, It's because it's also very hard to make a case against having Mohammad Shami back in the team, because of the way he's evolved as a T20 bowler for Kings 11 Punjab. So it's very hard to ignore that. But in saying that, I think Bhuvi has an advantage because not only is he a very good power play and death bowler, but he can also bat. And I think the Indian team's philosophy going into the World Cup is to have at least 10 batters in the team. So I think that to me gives Bhuvi an advantage over Shami. But in saying that, taking nothing away from Shami's T20 bowling, he's been fantastic.
How about you, Simon? What's your opinion on Bhuvaneshwar Kumar obviously returned to the side? Was you impressed with his performances across the series?
Yeah, I thought that he'll go for runs, but then he gave a brilliant performance in the series, and especially in the last match where other bowlers were going for 11, 12 runs and over, and he went for I think 3.2 or something, 4 runs and over. That calm and composedness that he has, he's like if you make Rahul Dravid a bowler, you get Bhuvaneshwar Kumar. That's what he.
Oh, Simon there? Simon, you still there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just about there, mate. Yeah, so you just froze for a second.
Should I repeat my point?
Oh, no, I think maybe I just want to elaborate a bit more, but it's fine. I can move to Anurag if you, Anurag, you want to comment on Bhuvi's performances?
Yeah, sure. I think with age and experience, he's become more crafty bowler. If you remember, in one phase of his career, he's totally lost his swing. Then he tried bowling 140 plus, and he became a So now he's come back. He's not worried if the pitch is offering swing or even seam movement. He just relies on his skill, his talent, and whatever the team needs. So now you see he's trying to head the pace attack. He's trying to make sure that not much runs are leaked when his 4 overs are being operated. And I think he'll definitely play the T20 World Cup when he's fit and fine.
I mean, Krisha, you would say he offers a lot, especially obviously the pace department, but his ability to move the ball through the air both ways, it's something a little bit different, especially to Bumrah and Shami. Do you see him, maybe not as important as Jasprit Bumrah, but do you see him taking the new ball in the World Cup, or do you still feel he still needs to prove himself in the next 7 months?
See, I think, Bhuvaneshwar, you know what you're going to get, man. I don't think there's no question of him trying to prove himself. I mean, he's not some new cricketer they've picked up from the IPL and they're giving him a chance. Like, Bhuvi is Bhuvi. Like, he's been there for a long time. I think, see, here's the thing, right? I think any good fast bowling unit needs to have three kinds of bowlers, right? They need to have one very good death bowler, one insanely good power play bowler, be that a swing bowler or be that somebody who sort of just hits the deck hard. And then one support bowler who you can choose as what are the kind of support fast. I'm talking about fast bowlers, of course. What kind of support fast bowler you want? Right? I think Bhuvaneshwar is, I think, the ideal power play swing bowler. I think, and I mean, you also have Deepak Chahar there, who's offering pretty much the same thing that Bhuvaneshwar offers. But I think Bhuvaneshwar, obviously, because of his I guess, reputation and how good he is and how much better he obviously is than Deepak Chahar, at picking up wickets, and just his economy rate, I think, makes him that much more important to this Indian side, and even more important than Shami, I would argue, because Shami, even though he gets wickets, goes for a lot of runs, but Bhuvi is more economical and still takes may not as many wickets, but still takes enough wickets to give you an advantage. So I think Bhuvaneshwar is important there. Now, whether Shami is used as a support bowler or whether they think of Natarajan or a Saini or a Shardul Thakur is going to be interesting to see coming to the World Cup. But yeah, Bhuvaneshwar is untouchable for at least for the World Cup.
Does Mohammad Siraj, obviously I'm sure Aaron will probably champion his position, but does he get a look into this squad? Is he nowhere near the T20 setup? Anurag, I'll go to you.
Question to me?
Yes, yeah. Mohammad Siraj I mentioned before. Obviously, Krishna reeled off like 8 different bowling options with Saini and Chahar. Obviously, there's no mention of obviously Siraj, who's been so good over the past 3 months. I appreciate with the red ball. Obviously, but he's obviously going to be opening the ball. You would imagine for LCB this year. Would a good IPL put him into contention?
Shay, I'm a good fan. I'm a great fan of Siraj in red ball cricket, but I'm not sure of his skills in white ball. The only white ball matches we've seen him play is in the IPL, and he's put up some good performances. But if you remember his debut series in Australia, he was totally out of the place. They were belting him everywhere out of the park. So I'm pretty sure he has age on his side, but now is not the time. I don't think they'll start to look at Siraj as a new ball bowler in white ball cricket. I think there's still time for him.
Someone whose time it was in this series was Hardik Pandya, who was absolutely phenomenal, as we saw with both bat and ball. Actually, I mentioned before about Bhuvi's economy rate. Hardik Pandya wasn't too far behind with 6.94. Bhuvi was 6.38. He only bowled an over less as well than Bhuvi and took 3 wickets. But also his bat as well. Just got to his stats here. So the 5 games, 86 runs, strike rate 140.98. Obviously, that knock in the 5th match, the 3rd time of 17 balls, wasn't it, to elevate India above 200. Obviously, now we're seeing, I think I've always felt personally, Hardik Pandya could be the next poster boy of Indian cricket when he came onto the scene a few years ago. Obviously, he's had some issues with, obviously, I think it was his back, wasn't it? He struggled, I think, at times. I really felt like he was a 3-format player. Any guy who could hit it 100 meters and can bowl 142, 144 kph, I can feel like he can. To me, is a bona fide 3-format player. It hasn't worked out that way for him. For me, he's one of the first names on the team sheet, I would say, for India. But then going into this series now, looking ahead to the World Cup, Aditya, do you think Pandya, with his bowling performances in particular, do you feel he's good enough to play as a 5th bowler, or do you still keep him reserved as 6th?
I do think he's good enough to play as 5th bowler, and his bowling performances in this series indicated that. I don't have an in-depth analysis as Aaron presented a little while ago, but from what I've seen of Pandya, and given that he's fine-tuned his action, I think right now the concern for the management is that given that he's recovered from injury, can his body take the load of bowling for overs? I think that's the question that only time will answer. But in saying that, and we'll have to see if he bowls through the IPL as well, because in previous IPL he played purely as batsman. So to me, I think he is a solid 5th bowler, and the team should always have him on the sheet, should be one of the first on the sheet. But we'll have to see how long his body sort of sustains the load of fast bowling.
Sign, I'll finish with you on this Pandya comment. So, I mean, do you see him? Do you feel like they should, as they saw in the final match, he played the sixth ball, didn't he? He played the fifth ball a couple of times and a sixth bowler. What's your opinion on Hardik Pandya? How would you kind of fit him into the team, and in what kind of position, what kind of role?
Of course, he would be my fifth bowler in the team, and then he would bat down the order as a finisher. In the first
at 6 or 7?
7. Considering you go with the same lineup as the last match. Also, I feel that there has been a bit of a weakness that has been found out against him, against raw pace. Many against Mark Wood, I think, got him out twice or thrice. So I feel like he'll work on that. That's not an issue. But I feel he's that ideal all-rounder we have been searching for in T20s.
You mentioned what Wood. Thank you for that sign. I just want to go to Aaron. Just got just a couple of points on the English bowling. I think in this series, obviously, Mark Wood, that was fantastic to watch him bowl so well, such raw, aggressive pace. He adjusted to the wicket very well as well. I mean, we also saw some variations in his armoury as well, which was obviously great to see. I would say, obviously, Adil Rashid was the interesting thing. Adil Rashid was by far the best spinner across both sides. He was excellent. I would say with Rashid, Archer, providing hopefully the elbow's fine. I've got an issue. I'm quite scared about that elbow. I think there's real lingering issues there. But let's say that Archer is fit. I would say you've got Archer, Rashid, and Wood as your three bankers. Fair to say. In the let's say a 5-man attack. Like, well, obviously it gets your opinion now, but Chris Jordan was the one who really disappointed me. I was really hoping. I think he went over 10s in this series and was very poor at the death. Tom Curran came in for a game. I think 2 overs 26, non-starter really. Who can, obviously, just tapping into your knowledge, especially the county game here, Aaron, who do you feel like maybe could make a last-minute ditch for the side? I mean, Pat Brown was someone that came to mind if he's fit again. But is there anyone you feel like maybe could usurp Chris Jordan? We know he's obviously gone as a reserve to the ODI games. Maybe he'll get a go, unlikely. But could Reece Topley get a go? Could he maybe get a chance? Because I was disappointed Reece Topley didn't get one game at least.
Same.
I would like to have seen 6 or 7 left arm. I would like to have seen just a bit of variation there, a different angle obviously you could bring to the side. But is there maybe someone else that I'm missing here, Aaron? Or is Chris Jordan still very much a focal part of that bowling attack?
Well, that's the interesting thing. And before we talk about his bowling, we have to mention the catch. I mean, what's the catch?
Yeah.
That was Jason Roy's reaction as well. Superb meme. But with regards to the place of Jordan, we cannot forget that this is England's leading all-time T20I wicket taker. He does have that reputation. As much as people can say about current form, Chris Jordan is a bona fide wicket taker in T20I cricket. He breaks partnerships. With that being said, though, he was incredibly expensive in this series. And something which really, really disappointed me personally was the bowling plans. They seem so one-dimensional. And you mentioned it actually, Shay, during the game. The one time we went to the wide Yorker, which was not used throughout the entire game pretty much, we had no third man.
There's no third man?
Exactly. So for me, it needs some more cooperation with regards to Chris Jordan's bowling. We need to actually find a niche again. I bring up that word again, a niche, a specific role. You need clear-cut roles in a team, just as India do. And Krishna's point about those 3 seam bowlers is absolutely brilliant. It really is. And that's something which England could actually try and utilise for the World Cup. But in terms of other options to Chris Jordan, of course, Chris Jordan, bowling all-rounder, can also hit the ball. We saw that a couple of times in this series. I don't really think we have a like-for-like, but we definitely have options. You mentioned Reece Topley, Surrey's second leading wicket taker in the Blast last season, 17 wickets. You have Jake Ball, for example, played with the Sixers, finishes the leading wicket taker in last year's Blast. Saqib Mahmood, someone who I have plenty of time for, definitely a future weapon for England in T20I cricket. And Pat Brown. Pat Brown's an interesting one. Because you mentioned about fitness, that isn't the only issue. The fact is now, if you look back to the stats last season, he was going about 10s and over as well for Worcester. So he needs to work a bit like Tom Curran in a way. Once these variations get found out and people start reading you, you need to adapt. You need to be versatile with your game. So for me, for the time being, as much as I rate Pat Brown, great young bowler, he wouldn't make the cut for me just yet. And then, of course, another one, if we really wanted the X factor. Okay, you mentioned raw pace. Let's say Mark Wood is out injured, for example.
Oh, God. How could I
You know
forget?
who's coming. 14 wickets. Warwickshire's leading wicket taker, Ollie Stone. Okay, this guy can be an enforcer. He's someone alongside Jofra Archer. Imagine those two in tandem, bowling 93-mile-an-hour rockets down in Ahmedabad or Pune or Mumbai or Kolkata. It'd be absolutely blockbuster. So yeah, for me, we definitely have options, but we need to give them time. And unfortunately, we don't have that time. So for me personally, after reading what Morgan's been saying, after hearing what Silverwood said in post-match interviews as well, Jordan does seem to actually be a banker. But with that being said, again, this summer is going to be absolutely imperative for him. The IPL is going to be vital as well. Again, let's utilise those changes. Let's have another dimension to his game. Let's try and add in the Yorker as well. We saw that at times. He used to be brilliant at the Yorker, and that seems to have gone out of his game. So for me, Jordan probably will be in the World Cup, but he definitely needs to improve alongside the likes of Curran, Stokes and Tom Curran as well.
Thank you, Aaron. Speaking of Ollie Stone, because I think we'll discuss him in a little while, I want to move on, guys, to the ODI series. We've obviously got 3 games starting on the 23rd. So a couple of days' time. All 3 games, all 3 day-night games in Pune. And our guys, Indian panelists, I'll come to you in a second about Pune and conditions. I'll shoot out the squads just for the guys watching now and later. So the England squad, we've got obviously Owen Moore, captain, Moeen Ali, Johnny Bairstow, Sam Billings, Josh Butler, Sam Curran, Tom Curran, Liam Livingston, Matt Parkinson, Adil Rashid, Jason Roy, Ben Stokes, Reece Topley, Mark Wood, and also traveling the squad, Jake Ball, Chris Jordan, and Davi Milan. And India squad, Virat Kohli captain, Rohit Sharma, Shikhar Dhawan, Shubman Gill, Shreyas Iyer, Surya Kumar Yadav, Hardik Pandya, Rishabh Pant, KL Rahul, Yuzvendra Chahal, Kuldeep Yadav, Krunal Pandya, Washington Sundar, Natarajan, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, Siraj, Krishna, and Shardul Thakur. I'll say Krishna is obviously making his debut, called to the squad. I don't think there's necessarily obviously as much riding on this series, necessarily in terms of obviously got Super League, but in terms of obviously the ODI World Cup being 2 years away. That being said, obviously I said before, we're playing the match in Pune. Krishna, what can we expect as English fans in Pune? What conditions, especially in the day-night games?
Honestly, I have no idea. Given the way that the whole series has been, talk about pitch, talk about this, talk about that, I have no idea, man. At least from my knowledge of Pune conditions that I've seen being played in the IPL and elsewhere before, we've seen sort of like, I guess it's been like kind of spin friendly, kind of like at least erring like probably 60% bowler friendly, whereas 40% batting friendly sort of conditions. Just a little bit helpful for the bowler. So you might get 270, 280 kind of games. But then again, it's India, and India usually we get 330, 340 games are like very commonplace now for us. So I really don't know, man. But it'll be interesting to see also England's ODI outfit. I would assume is a far better outfit than their T20 outfit. And India's ODI outfit, I don't see is something that's very sort of potent yet. But yeah, it'll be interesting to watch.
Aditya, then we'll elaborate on, initially the conditions that we need to come to expect starting in a couple of days' time. And also your thoughts on the squad. Is there any glaring omissions there you feel?
Right. So if you remember back in 2017, I think,
maybe that test match over, yeah.
No, we played that historic ODI, where we were chasing 350 odd, and India was in 60 odd for 4 when Kohli and Kedar Jadhav they decided to score centuries, and they took India comfortably over the line. I know Aaron remembers, but it was outstanding. So I think it might be a high scoring pitch. As for the squad, just the way Kohli had talked about changing India's approach to batting in T20s, I think this might be a good opportunity to make amends to that ODI tentative batting as well. And I don't think we need to go slam bang aggressive from ball one. That's never been in the Indian DNA, really. So I think we should just focus on having a bit more of an adaptive approach and trying out more all-rounders, because where India was sort of hamstrung in the Australian series was that I think we just had 5 bowlers, which meant that no one could really have an off day. Everyone had to be on point, and we ended up conceding 370 plus in 2 ODIs consecutively. So I think that's something that the Indian players, the Indian management look to change. But in saying that, I do think Prithvi Shaw is a glaring omission because he scored 827 runs in 8 games in the Vijay Hazare Trophy at an average of like 160 odd. So to see him not playing is a bit odd. But I also feel like Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli should rest themselves for this series because it doesn't have too much consequence, and I might as well see some of the younger guys like Shubman Gill come in, and KL Rahul probably take the captaincy for this series. I don't see why Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli have been needed for this one. They're going to go into the IPL and then prepare for the World Cup. So just let them chill for a bit.
Anurag, Prasidh Krishna has been obviously selected and called to the squad. The fast bowler from Karnataka, plays for Kolkata. What can we expect from him? What do you feel like we can expect to see? First of all, do you think he'll get a game in the 3-match series? And if he does, what kind of bowler? What should we come to expect from Krishna if he does play?
So Prasidh Krishna is a kind of a bowler who thrives on raw pace. He's also a bowler who depends on the captain and his confidence. If you remember, it was Dinesh Karthik in one of the IPL games. He trusted Prasidh Krishna to bowl the super over. So I think he's one of the guys who will probably run in with good pace and he'll probably thrive on the captain's confidence. But I'm pretty sure I don't think he'll get any game time in this 3 ODI series. Probably he's a guy to look for in the future.
Okay, thank you. And Sion, what's your opinions on the squad? Is there anything that you could have changed?
Yeah, there's one glaring omission. It's Mayank Agarwal. That guy was there in Australia, right? You can't just drop him out of nowhere. I know he's out of form, so is KL Rahul. But then I think it's a big mistake on India's part to drop Mayank Agarwal. Also,
Krishna loves Agarwal, don't you, Krishna? We know you've been championing that Agarwal flag for a long time, mate. I mean,
yeah, I guess it's I don't know about glaring omission. I think maybe at least with ODIs, I don't see it as a glaring omission. I personally don't, which is sort of counterintuitive to the whole narrative that I'm a Mayank Agarwal super fan. But no, I think, here's the thing, right? Mayank Agarwal was sort of brought in as a backup opener because you weren't sure about Rohit. Right, that was the issue, and Mayank Agarwal was there in New Zealand as a reserve opener because Rohit was not there, and he played because Rohit was not there in New Zealand and in Australia because Rohit was not there. So I don't think India were looking at Mayank Agarwal as a long-term player who would play in the ODI format. I think he was just brought in because he did well, in the IPL and things like that, and they just needed somebody. Of course, I mean, Sayan's point of, Mayank Agarwal being a good player, and, having not done too much wrong is fair, but also Mayank Agarwal was given 3 ODIs in New Zealand and he didn't make any use of it. And even in Australia, it's not like he was amazing there either. So I think it's rather, we don't really know exactly what Mayank Agarwal's place in this team holds right now, and I think it's okay to rest him or not pick him because you have guys like KL Rahul who you want to try at the top of the order again. You have guys like Shubman Gill coming in. Rohit Sharma is also there. Shikhar Dhawan also he needs runs. So a lot of people in there who you want to see get runs. I guess Mayank Agarwal's place in the ODIs format is not something I'm really worried about right now.
Sign, apology. I think I might cut you off before. Sign, if you've got any other points to kind of continue with on the squad.
Yeah, so I was talking about Prasidh Krishna because I've seen him up close from about 2018 when he came as a backup bowler in KKR, right? So he's got raw pace and he can consistently hit the line and length you want. And he can also swing the ball in the power play. So he's a very good power play and death bowler. Although he hasn't shown his capabilities yet, but still I feel that he can come.
Thank you. Aaron, we'll finish up with you. I'll see your thoughts on the England squad now. This is your time to shine, mate. You go for it.
Well, just before I do, just to touch upon Aditya's previous point about omissions, what about Devdutt Padikkal? And the reason why I think Virat Kohli, Mike Hesson, Simon Katic, they've done it again. Absolute masterclass. Thinking ahead for the mega auction. Give Suryakumar Yadavinesh and Kishan T20 caps. Get those caps so Mumbai can't actually retain them for next year's auction. Keep Padikkal. Love to see it. 2022 RCB's year. But IPL bias aside, with regards to England's squad,
do you lie in bed thinking about this? Like what the
day.
tactics of the year's time? Like I honestly,
every day, every single day for 14 years. Trust me, it's painful. It is painful.
The day that RCB win, you live in near Birmingham, is it Warwick?
I'm flying out to Bangalore and joining in the celebrations, mate. I'm telling you, I'm getting on that first flight from Birmingham.
I have a bed right here behind me. I can sleep right there. Yeah. So it's all yours, man.
I'll be there. But yeah,
he'll kick you out. You're a Chennai fan. He'll kick you out the house, mate. You'll take it to the house.
Not on that day, no. Not on that day. Not in Bangalore. Not in the Garden City. But yeah, IPL aside, that was only a bit of banter. But yeah, with regards to England's selection, obviously I'm not too happy as a Warwickshire fan because there's 3 glaring omissions, and they are glaring. One of them is the number 3 ranked all-rounder in the world, Christopher Roger Wokes. Why is he not even in contention? And the thing that really...
Is that through the bubble, though, Aaron, to be fair? Is he just wanting more time at home?
This is the key, though, Shay, because why couldn't England have thought of this beforehand? This is a guy who was one of England's players in the summer and has not played a single game all winter. He's been wasted in the nets. He's in the nets at Warwickshire right now. Our season begins in 18 days' time, and we can't have him for the opener against Derbyshire because he's going to be in the IPL, where he's probably, again, going to be on the bench because of Marcus Stoinis and Ulrich Norkira Rabada. So for me, I feel like England have really, really badly mismanaged the whole Woke situation. My heart goes out to him, of course, as a Warwickshire fan, and as an England fan as well, because he's the number 3 ranked all-rounder. We know what Chris Wokes is capable of. He was an integral part of England's success in the World Cup, our second leading wicket taker.
Even last summer as well. Last summer he was fantastic.
Well, the knock against Pakistan, for example, that was brilliant. The knock against Australia as well, at Old Trafford. And yet he's not even considered. And I don't see why. So, again, I'm not going to waffle on about Chris Wokes. I mean, it'd take about another hour for me to properly convey my emotions about that whole debacle. Then with regards to Ollie Stone, again, statistically speaking, you might take one look at Ollie Stone, see that ODI average of 97, and say he should be nowhere near a plane. But with that being said, that was 2018. That was against Sri Lanka. That was 3 years ago, and he's a different bowler since then. He's a lot fitter. He's a lot stronger. And not only that, he was in contention for the South Africa ODI series before that series got postponed. So again, why was he not kept on? He's played 1 game all winter, and in that game, he took 4 for 68 on a pitch which offered nothing in Chennai. And again, he hasn't been selected. So I'm baffled there, to be quite honest, with regards to England's team selection, management. And then, of course, the number 3 spot, we've got no Joe Root. We knew this beforehand. Why haven't we got a Sam Hain in there? A man who has the highest list day average of all time. 59.78. You talk about RCB keeping me up at night. That keeps me up at night as well. How has he not got an England call-up? 59.78. It's higher than Kohli's. It's higher than Michael Bevan's. It's the highest in history, and this man has still not made his 3 lines debut. And this is a perfect series. If Joe Root isn't there, you have got a number 3 spot open there for the taking. Give Sam Hain an opportunity against quality opposition. You mentioned there Bhuvaneshwar Kumar. Imagine him taking him on in Pune. What an experience that would be for Sam Hain to really try and cement himself and at least try and elevate his potential on the international stage. And again, he's had the opportunity robbed. So for me, I'm not overly happy with the squad. Of course, Jofra, we can't do anything about that. I share your concern there, to be honest, Shay, with regards to Jofra. I feel like, again, mismanaged. Why did he play in Ahmedabad?
I think they're downplaying that injury. I think they're downplaying it.
I do.
I think about surgery before the World Cup. I think I could say, he needs surgery, because the comments come out that he needs a rest. It could be just a repetitive injury, but I thought you had the injection after the first T20. I think if they want to, he is a jewel in the crown for England, especially in white ball cricket. They want to see him play in the World Cup. They want to go to the Ashes and play probably all 5 tests, let's be honest. But I think that elbow is not going to hold up. But I will not be surprised if we haven't, he doesn't even go to the Ashes. If they keep giving painkilling injections, we may not see him in the Ashes, which would be a travesty and would be a real killer blow for England's chance of winning that series. So for me, Ollie Stone is a I'm laughing, but the reality is I do agree with you. You saw my comments before, Aaron, about Chris Wokes. Criminally underused this winter. Class player, and I'm a Surrey fan. I'm not, I'm not saying about bias, but my point is, I just feel see Chris Wokes on the face of it. I think he's a very, very talented player. I always really admire Chris Wokes' absolute rock solid team position. One of the best team positions you'll see in world cricket. Fantastic. And he's been since the start, he made his debut in 2011? I think it's that's
2011.
6 for in 2011 in Sydney, was it? In the ODI match. He's around a long time now, and he's to wait his time. But he's 32 years old now, just turned. It's his time now to be, for me, a key player in all three formats, not just one or two. So I am disappointed. Ollie Stone said before, surely a light flight replacement. If Jofra's not fit, surely you got to pick Ollie Stone. I mean, that's just a travesty. He did well in the second test.
The key. That's the key. Mismanagement again. It's not just about Jofra. Of course, we wanted to win that test series. We wanted to go out there. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out like that. But you've got Ollie Stone, who is fully fit for once. I mean, he's had a lot of injury problems, had a lot of stress fractures. I can understand about him not playing the entire 4-match series. But you've got Jofra, you mentioned him. He is the crown in the jewel. He's the X factor. He is the talisman across all three formats for England. We cannot afford him to be out for months with an elbow complication. We can't. So why was Ollie Stone not included? And yet Jofra played in the next 2 test matches. In the 4th test match, didn't he? And of course in the T20I series now. It's about managing these players. We have to look forward to the future. Of course, this is a massive series. And again, India outplayed us. Fair play. I didn't mention that at the start, but India have been absolutely fantastic across both series. But again, we're risking the long-term sustainability of this side for the short-term gain. And that hasn't paid off. We've lost both series. So for me, that's a real concern as well. And I really, really pray that does not come back to bite us heading into the World Cup and the Ashes.
I mean, the fact that Tom Curran's still been picked is just an absolute disgrace, in my opinion. I don't know how someone decides that Tom Curran is a better T20 bowler than Chris Woakes. I will never know. I'll never know that. Anyway, I'll leave it there because I'm going to rant myself, I think, now. And I'm not even a Warwickshire bloody fan. Do you know what I mean?
I convey those emotions to the panel as well. If you want to follow county cricket this season, Fair and Ragged staff, Edgbaston, brilliant team, superb family club, family orientated, definitely worth a follow and a watch on the streams this season.
Good atmosphere actually, Edgbaston, especially in a test match.
Oh, well done.
Test cricket there is a very good atmosphere. Guys, very quickly, got to wrap it up now. So I'm just going to do predictions, then we can find you. So we'll start with predictions. Anurag?
2-1 England, because I think they have a more settled side. They have more settled bowling lineup, so probably England, yes. 2-1.
Krishna?
I don't do predictions, bro.
Oh, yeah, I always say that, yeah.
England, okay, you know what? For this time, I'll do one, yeah. I think, I'll stick with 2-1 England as well. Anurag.
Okay. Sayan?
2-1 India, because we lose the first match.
Aditya?
3-0 India.
I knew you'd say that. I knew you would say that. I swear to God, I need to say 3-0. Yeah, I know he is. Just upset the apricot, innit? I knew it. All right, Aaron?
Well, again, I don't want to predict against my team, but there's no Warwickshire players. And any good England side has Warwickshire players, so I'm going to say 2-1 India. But fingers crossed it's a tight series. And about Pune as well, we've got nothing really statistical to back it up on. There's been 4 ODIs there. 2 have been won winning the toss, batting. 2 have been won batting second. So again, there's not really much to go off of. We've had 3 games of all different types of run scoring as well. But yeah, should be a good series. Fingers crossed.
Thank you. Right. Guys, where can we find you? Anurag, I'll start with you.
You can find me on Facebook as Anurag Reddy and on Twitter as The Obvious Madlad.
Anurag, can I just ask you, when you said the obvious, is it Madman?
Madlad, M-A-D-L-A-D.
Mad Lad. Obvious Mad Lad. Okay. I had to get on Twitter. I had to follow Obvious Mad Lad. Right, Krishna, the rap maestro.
Right here, man. Oh, wait, right there. Yeah. Krishna _Kalki. On Instagram, Facebook at Krishna the Kalk, and YouTube Krishna Kalki. Yeah, my name.
And guys, if you happen to be based in the Bangalore area and need music provided for any live events, do hit this guy up.
In the IPL.
There you go. Yeah, see Krishna play. My favorite though. Let's go to Sayan. Where do you find you, mate?
You can find me on Instagram, Bust Your Nut.
Bust your nut, boys. Don't forget to bust your nut. You get me? There we go. Sayan, though, you know, we joke around. Sayan's actually very well informed. I really enjoy you being on the show, mate. Your points are very good, and you've got a lot of knowledge. I know we always joke around, but I really appreciate Sayan you coming on all these times, mate. Aditya? No worries at all, man. Aditya, where do we find you?
Aditya U Mehta on Instagram and Twitter, and Aditya Mehta on Facebook.
Aditya, as well as you know, is a very big part of Cricket Fantasy Magazine, a South African publication. I always speak about them. Superb platform that is. Just general cricket fans, but especially if you're a fan of the Proteas. And Aaron, if you don't know where to find Aaron, then I don't know what rock you are currently hiding under. But we'll start with Aaron's personal stuff. So, Aaron, where can we find you, mate?
Well, I'll try and do the Krishna. It's there. Cricket Connoisseur at the Cricket Connoisseur _. And then, of course, there is the County Cricket Podcast, weekly podcast, all about county cricket. Very, very Warwickshire biased and Lancashire biased with my co-host Joe Nutsy Nuttall. But yeah, it's always a good laugh. We get some decent guests on. So yeah, give that a listen and a follow if you can. And of course, follow everyone on the screen right now. I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure, gents. It really has. Love talking cricket tonight. Share yourself as well. Go and subscribe to An Even Bounce. And yeah, thanks very much, boys. It's been an absolute honour.
Thank you, Aaron. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Obviously, a wealth of knowledge. You're very insightful as always. And yeah, great to have you on, man. So thank you again. Guys, that's it from me. Yeah, we did an hour and 20. So I did promise and misses an hour and 15 maximum. So I better shoot off. I will do before I go. We'll post one comment because you had a few, but this one I know Aaron loves. I will just post that. I'll be completely honest, Aaron. I'm not joking around. I don't get this whole AA Ron thing. I don't even know what it is.
Excellent, especially you don't.
Yeah, because I always see this AA Ron thing, AA Ron, but I don't even know I just know it's your name, split up. But it seems to wind you up quite a bit, and I don't even know why.
See, Shay, now I think I can safely say that you're not 26 anymore. I can safely say that you're 30, 35, 38.
Is it from a movie or something?
From Key and Peele.
Key and Peele, yeah.
I know Key and Peele. I liked Us and Get Out. I loved those two movies. But it's from the comedy show from the sketch.
It's a sketch.
Okay, there we go. Thank you, Krishna. Because Aaron was never going to tell me that clearly, from what I could see. So anyway, you can get Dan Cricket 93. If you want to hurl him some abuse for Aaron,
I agree.
Feel free. There
Please.
You go. Anyway.
Much appreciated.
Thanks, guys, once again. Yeah, obviously, like the content, do subscribe to New Bounce. Thank you so much. Thanks once again, Anurag, Aaron, Sain, Aditi, and Krishna. Fantastic. We'll do, obviously, a review show of the 3 ODIs in a week's time. And until then, have a great week ahead. And take care. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, man.